Hi guys, we're going to do the load test now with the King's 3000 watt inverter. I'm going to use the fan heater. It's got the three settings: fan, which is minimal draw, then number 1 and number 2. Now previously in my other video I did mention that the previous battery setup I had, which was 300 amp hours of AGM batteries, as soon as I turned on switch number 2, it cut out. I was then, after doing some research, found out that the batteries just couldn't handle it. So I ended up going then with the 300 amp hour lithium from King's for $899. Now I'm going to test it and check to see whether it can run this fan heater. Now the fan heater caps out at around 2000 watts, so there should still be capacity to be able to run something else. But for starters, I want to see if I can do now what I couldn't do before. So for starters, we turn the inverter remote switch on. Currently obviously no draw here. Go over here. She's already plugged in here. Going across to this, and now let's turn. That's just the normal fan, of course isn't an issue. And if we look here, minimal draw of around 9 watts. Now we're going to turn the switch to number 1. That's the first level of heat, and we see that jump up to 962 watts. Now we're going to turn it to switch number 2, which is the higher setting. And there we are at 1980, 1950, 1947. Now down here at the inverter, everything appears to be running normally. No loss of power. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump across and do a screenshot of the power supply in the caravan, just to see how things are running from that, and I'll see if I can insert that image into the video. But for now, what I'd like to do is keep this running for a bit, just to see whether we can get the fans to cut in, whether they cool it and then they cut off, or they just stay on, or what happens with the fans. This is wonderful sitting in front of this heater on a summer's day. I'm just kidding. Okay. Fan still running on high. Still around that 2000 watts of draw on the inverter. Temperature at 44 degrees. I'm not sure whether it's temperature censored to cut in at a certain temperature or not for the fans and then cool down. Actually, fans just jumped in at 45 degrees. The little fan light you can see there is going. I now want to see whether it continues going or whether the fan will actually stop at some point. Now I know with usually these phones or any sort of recording device, it does sound like the fan unit is really loud. In fact, it's not really loud at all. Now you can put it in there and you can hear it, but it's not very loud at all. And then with this thing here, this little vent closed, once that's closed, I can't hear it at all. So far, the King's product I'm very impressed with. Now, I'd also like to add that I am only currently on a draw of around that 2000. We need to get it up to 3000. I'm going to go and get an appliance that's around that 1000 mark, preferably a little bit over, just so we can see what happens. Okay, I found the heat gun. The heat gun is rated at 2000 watts. That's rated at 2000 watts. This is only rated at 3000 watts. So what I can do, because setting number 1 on here is around that 1000 watts, I can drop that down and I can turn the heat gun on, and we'll see how we go with this. What are we looking at now with temperature? It's currently sitting at 44 degrees. Fan is still running. So I'm going to now drop this down and I'm going to put the heat gun on. So the heat gun is now on full, 2000 watts. We're hitting 2813, still at 44 degrees Celsius, fan is still on. Now obviously it's rated at 3000. Let's jump up this and see if we can kill it. Okay, it did. We're hitting on that. Okay, so that's a pretty good feature, to be honest. The other item, the heat gun, is still running. That didn't cut out. The inverter didn't cut out when it was overloaded. The fan heater is on low, but as soon as it goes to high, it can't handle it. So that's good. That means the surge capacity is working. Once it hits over the 3000, even though it's got a 6000 watt surge, that doesn't mean it'll take 4 or 5 or 6000 watts of power for a short period of time. As soon as it detects that it's over that, it won't shut the whole unit down. It will just error on one of the power points that's making the highest draw. Therefore, this one here is the fan. This one here continued to operate. The fan one stopped working. As soon as I turned the fan one down to low, immediately the fan started working back again on low. So the draw still around that 2800 mark. Fan is still on, 48 degrees, just increased by 1 degree. Let's just continue seeing how long this can handle it for. Okay, I'm going to do another test. I'm going to see if I can reduce the heat gun down to half. I don't know whether it's just a low fan and still 2000 watts. It doesn't say it on the little card that's on it, on the little sticker. But I suppose we'll know shortly whether it's 1000 watts and then switch to 2000 watts, which is the maximum, or you've still got 2000 watts of heat with a lower fan setting. Hopefully that makes sense. Now if I switch this to high, everything is still running. That's on low heat. That's on high heat. And now we're closer to the 3000 mark with the fan still going, 50 degrees Celsius. Here we are, 2893, so 2900. It's getting close. Running still on low, running on high. Fans still running. Unit to the touch. No problems, no warmth at all. No heat coming through the vents. A bit of warm air coming out of the fans. There's 2 fans and the power input cable is quite warm. Sorry, the whole power cable I can feel is warm, but remember it's fused. and it's thick, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. And where it's located here, there's nothing that can be sitting against it to cause a problem. The fan, the temperature now appears to be cooling down a little bit, so the fans are doing what they're supposed to be doing by keeping the inverter cool. But when I say warm, it's only lukewarm, and it's sitting at around that 52 degrees. And here we are, we've been now running for a bit of time without any issues. There has been no interruptions in the power flow. Alright guys, well, we've been going for quite some time now. You can see it's down 12.1 volts in the battery, which is still perfectly fine. Temperature hasn't really moved away from that 55 degrees Celsius. The fan is still running. It's hitting 2900 watts. I think I'm going to stop it now and see how long it takes for the unit to cool down. Or maybe if I just reduce the items. Now I'll turn the fan heater off to setting number 1. There she drops. And now this fan heater is completely off. And the temperature's already started to drop on the inverter, down to 915 watts. So obviously what that's showing us now is that you can run the heat gun on half, and it's half of the, so it's around the 1000 watts. Put it up to high, up she goes to nearly 2000 watts as rated. And now that's off completely, no draw. 54, 53 degrees Celsius. Fans are still running, and from memory the fans cut in at around the 45 degrees Celsius mark. So let's just see whether she drops down anytime soon. There we go, 52. Okay, we're at 43 degrees, fan is still running, 0 watts draw because there's nothing powered on at all. Fan is still running. I just felt the temperature at the back of it. It's cooling down quite rapidly. Temperature today is around the 28 degree mark, so it's actually handling it very well. I'm very impressed with it. Here we are, down to 41 degrees, cooling down quite rapidly. So it shows that it wasn't working all that hard, and it was performing as rated. Now what I would have liked to have done is gone closer to the 3000 watts, but sometimes that's not all that easy to do. 40 degrees. I figure if I can operate those two heater elements, one on low, one on high, I think that's a pretty good start, to be honest, considering I'm probably unlikely to ever run both of those items or anything like that sort of drawer at the same time. The coffee machine is something I would like to try, but that won't be an issue because it's not anywhere near 3000 watts. One thing I really want to try, and I'd like your opinion, is I would like to connect, as a test, I want to connect the 10 amp power plug to here, and I want to run it under the caravan. Okay, did you notice the fan just cut out, and it just cut out at 38 degrees. I'm very happy with that. Now getting back to what I was saying, I want to run this to the caravan. I want to plug it into the 15 amp connection at the caravan. Now obviously it's 10 amps coming out of this inverter, but what I want to try to do is I want to try and run the air conditioner, which has a 2100 watt draw when it's operating, but it has a 3100 startup surge. So I'm hoping that that compressor startup surge doesn't stop it from working completely. This is purely a test, but I would love it if I could run the air conditioner for just even a couple of hours on a low setting of an evening before as the sun's gone down and whatever, just to cool the thing down a little bit. If that doesn't work, then I could probably run the fridge from this if I happen to run out of gas, using that connection. I don't have a separate connection for the fridge, but it would be purely run from the inverter to the caravan. And then of course, separate to that, I've got a generator that I can use as well. Now, what I would like to do is probably upgrade the battery, which you can sort of see through there. I'm going to try and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, there it is through there. The battery set up with the bowl of spaghetti on top of it. I probably will get another battery and just see how that goes with 600 amp hours. But now we're down to 39 degrees, so it's obviously cooling now just based on its own ambient cool down, as opposed to using the fans. And obviously it doesn't need to have the fans running, otherwise it would. I'm going to jump across now and have a look, now that there's no drawer on this, what the solar or the charging arrangement is, if it's getting anything more from the solar panels at this time of day, which I doubt it, but I'm going to jump across and have a look. Alright guys, you know the usual drill. If you can subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate that. I'm trying to build this channel up to continue doing these types of things for people. I enjoy answering the comments. If you subscribe to me, I'll return the favour and subscribe to you. I'd really like to get my subscriber numbers up. I've had a few comments, which is part of the reason why I've done this, because I did have a comment from a gentleman who was asking me about how this King's 3000 watt inverter performs. I'd have to say I'm very happy with it at the moment. Obviously I need to use it a bit more longer term than just a test, but for now it has passed the test successfully. How will it be in operation? I'd really like to see that over time. Okay, so before I sign off, here we are at 0 watts and 40 degrees for the unit. I'm now going to turn the unit off remotely, and now it's done. Thanks for your time. Please subscribe and leave a comment. Thanks guys. Have a good afternoon.